Good morning to you, Andrew.
Hello.
Hello there. Now, you actually, we talked to you before about your new comedy club, Comedy Unleashed, where you're trying to actually, restore the idea that you can make jokes about anything,
Yes.
including the Holocaust. The only rule for a joke is it has to be funny, not that people have to not find it offensive. And you've actually played this video at your comedy club to a live audience.
Yes, we did. And you can joke about anything. You're joking about a topic doesn't mean that you endorse what it represents, of course, in any circumstances. We played the video at the comedy club to sort of gauge whether, in fact, people who hadn't seen it before might find it funny, and the audience laughed an awful lot.
Well,
Um,
when I saw, I mean, I'm sort of, I've got to be honest with you, the gas, the juicing, I found very distasteful.
yes, it is.
But it actually, by being so distasteful and awful, that was sort of part. Well, that was the joke, wasn't it? And I
Yeah.
certainly found when I saw the video, this story all came out when I was away on holiday, so I didn't cover it on the show. And I saw it, and I thought, oh, I'm laughing, and I feel guilty for laughing. But we're talking to David Baddiel, a very prominent Jewish comedian, yesterday on the show, and he said he thought it was very funny.
Yeah, this is the comic who hosted the night at our comedy club was a Jewish comic called Louis Schaefer, who also said before he'd seen it, he didn't think he'd heard about it and he didn't think it sounded very funny. But after he saw it, he thought it was really funny. And this is the point. When you watch, I would urge anyone to actually watch the video for themselves, because of course, if you hear the phrase "gas the Jews," you just assume, God, that's awful, that's terrible. He's repeating this awful,
Yeah.
ghastly phrase. But when you watch the video in context, it is, as you say, the juxtaposition with the very, very cute animal. And he even explains the joke at the start of the video. He says, I'm doing this, I'm turning my girlfriend's cute dog into the most vicious, evil thing I can think of. He explains the joke for you.
Yeah.
There's
And,
no doubt that it was intent. You're allowed to say it's not funny or I don't find it funny, but
yes.
it was definitely intended to
To
be
be
funny.
funny. Well, this is the thing, isn't it? Because what he's spoken about since, and those comedians defending him have pointed out that this is about freedom of speech and this is about intent. He wasn't intending to offend. He wasn't intending to incite violence or hatred against Jewish people, or to celebrate the Nazis. It was purely, it was a joke. And he's saying that the fact that he's been taken to court for a hate crime and found guilty and fined, suggests that the court, and not suggests, tells us that the courts don't look at context or intent anymore.
No, the prosecution and the court actually ruled that content and intent don't matter. Context, sorry, and intent don't matter at all. That these things are
But
irrelevant.
lots of, but I mean, an awful lot of our comment. I'm thinking Life of Brian would probably
Yeah.
fall foul under this. Lots of Springtime for Hitler and things. I mean, these are, how on earth would these not also fail this test?
Well, I can't help but think that in this case, and in many of the other cases where people have gone to prison for making a joke on Facebook or something like that, it's because we're dealing with people who aren't professional comedians. We're dealing with people who are just typically working class teenagers or very young people who are getting it wrong or misjudging a joke. So I find that very disturbing. I don't think the state should be arresting anybody for what they say or do, particularly with an attempt at humour. I mean, as you say with the Marcus Meekin case, he's definitely not trying. I mean, you can say I find it offensive, but he's not trying to incite hatred against Jewish
Oh,
people, because if you were really trying to do that, you would use a different medium than pugs, wouldn't
Are
you?
you? I would guess so. Although there is now some view that actually these are the ways that you can actually sort of get these messages across and use that as your defence. Just finally, very briefly, Andrew Doyle, in your comedy club is about, like, look, there's nothing that you can't joke about. Are you worried now that this is going to be a constraint on freedom of speech and freedom of expression and on comedy?
Yes, I think the biggest threat, of course, is that comedians will feel that they have to self-censor because they'll be worried about repercussions or being misinterpreted. That will be the real danger. Of course, it's always wrong when the state arrest people for what they say. That's always going to be something that we should resist.
Yeah.
But in addition to that, I think people are going to be more and more worried about being misinterpreted. Clearly, in this case, that this man was willfully misinterpreted in order to secure a conviction. That's very troubling.
I have to say, it seems to me I don't really want the state telling me what I can and can't find funny. That's certainly for sure.